What's up everybody, Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video, and in this video we're gonna break down patch 4.0 finally dropping, and we gotta talk about all the big changes, so we're gonna break it down. We go to the GameLeap website. If you didn't reach your goal rank for 2021, in 2022 you could absolutely dominate with our in-depth advanced guides, breakdowns, and we're gonna be doing a full high-quality Neon course, so do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below. Now jumping right into it, they said this, quote, alongside new Agent Neon, a fresh battle pass and skin line, patch 4.0 brings a few weapons from out of the shadows, tones down some others, and improves the melee. Bind and especially Breeze are reshaped in areas that should adjust the attacker/defender dynamic. We cap it off with a cap on the account level needed to play competitive. Now, of course, Neon is going live this patch, and we've actually been able to see her and play her on the public beta entry for quite some time now, and Neon is definitely a polarizing agent. Some people are having an absolute blast playing her, while other people are getting freaking slide shotgunned from around the corner. Definitely give her a try, she looks freaking fun, and let me know how you feel about Neon in the comments down below. Now the next thing that we gotta talk about are weapon updates. First off with the melee. The melee's been too tricky to aim with, making it tough to rely on. So we updated both left and right click melee attacks for more reliable agent whacking action. First off, right click hitboxes are now 1.5 times larger. Left click hitboxes are now larger than the right click and have slightly longer range too. Targets closer to the center of your knife attacks will get hit first, so you still have precision if needed. Bonus, knifing walls will now have instant feedback when slicing up walls, predicted on the client side. That's definitely gonna feel a lot more satisfying than it was before. And all in all, I could see, right click and left click, these melees might actually be useful in certain situations. Like imagine a situation where you can swap to a knife and it could do some guaranteed damage if an enemy's low. It actually could come up more than you think it does. It comes up a lot in Counter-Strike, a game where melee actually is reliable, and in this game it never has been. So I'm actually really excited about this change. The only thing that I would add to make it a cherry on top is like give us an extra ult point for a knife kill, or maybe give us a little bit of extra money for a knife kill. I think that would be cool to add on top of this even more, but still, these changes are amazing and I like them a lot. Now the next up we gotta talk about is the Spectre, and this is what the developers had to say about the Spectre. Quote, the Spectre's versatility makes us happy, but it was overperforming in long-range engagements and was too powerful even within its intended close range and mobile scenarios. By making the accuracy error come in a bit earlier and switching yawns more often, we hope that it will make it more difficult to get kills when spraying over a long range. Likewise, the close range sprays will require more control to be effective. So basically, the firing error occurs a bit earlier bullet stages. For example, instead of errors occurring at bullets 4, 7, and 10 in terms of firing order, they will happen at bullets 3, 6, and 8. Increased pitch and yawn, vertical and horizontal recoil multipliers when running, jumping on ascender from 1.25 to 1.5. Protected bullet count from yawn horizontal switching while spraying decreased 8 to 5 bullets, lowering time switch yawn 0.24 to 0.18. While spraying, the time you could have until you switch yawn's horizontal movement again is lower, meaning it can happen more often. Now, it's definitely going to be unclear exactly how much this is going to hurt the Spectre until we actually get our hands on it and play it often. That being said, the Spectre is still going to be really good for that second round buy. It's still going to body up on a lot of the cheaper weapons in the game, and it can still run and gun to an extent. It can utilize its large magazine, but there are some weapons that can take advantage of the fact that it's not going to be as effective from longer engagements. Weapons like a Sheriff, for instance, or even weapons like Marshals and things like that. And in the head-to-head up against rifles, you're not gonna have a Spectre user just like run across your screen and double dink you from pretty far away. So that's definitely nice, but we'll reserve our judgment until we fully grind with the weapon. Now, next up, we gotta talk about the Ares, and they said, alongside changes to the Spectre, we hope to improve the feel and power of Ares to take it out of the shadows of other weapons in its price tier. Remove the spin up, and the firing rate got increased from 10 to 13. So not only does it have a faster fire rate, but the spin up is no longer there, meaning it's going to do more damage right off the bat. And in the way that engagements matter, spin up oftentimes meant you aren't reaching your maximum DPS fast enough, to not get dinked and killed instantly. And the Ares was still decent in a lot of niche scenarios. I think this is going to make the gun far better in many more scenarios. Alongside the nerfs to the Spectre, I think the Ares is going to be a very reasonable, comparable buy in many situations, especially if you can get wallbang value out of it. So we're definitely going to keep a close eye on the power level of this weapon and how it's going to affect the meta overall. Next up, we got to talk about the Guardian. So, quote, the Guardian didn't need the fire rate penalty compared to its fully automatic counterpart, so we're removing it. Adding another bullet before it starts to get unstable should make the weapon feel much more proficient at tapping shots and improve its overall effectiveness in a fight. Removed firing rate penalty on ADS aiming down sights. Added an extra bullet before it enters a recovery curve. Now, while I was actually covering the Guardian leaks before, I only got half that picture, and the fact that they also added the second part of this, which is the extra bullet before it enters a recovery curve, means that this is actually going to be a pretty interesting change. You're going to be able to tap shots pretty quickly, and the Guardian's going to be a lot better at taking these long-range pot shots, and you're going to be able to shoot multiple times without the gun starting to feel too unruly so quickly. So I think this is going to feel a lot better for the Guardian and make it a little better as well. Next up, we got to talk about the Bulldog. Quote, we love giving the Bulldog some love to help it feel like a better buy in those situations when you might need a cheaper but versatile rifle option. Hip fire rate increased from 9.5 to 10. Recovery on burst fire improved from 0.4 to 0.35. Inaccuracy is accrued anytime the weapon is refired prior to a complete duration of a weapon's respective gun recovery time. Lower recovery time should improve burst fire efficiency. So I already thought the Bulldog was incredibly underrated, but this is another buff to really make it a conversation piece as far as whether or not you should be buying it in your given rounds. Specifically, having higher fire rate is going to make the gun just more powerful, more overall DPS, which is definitely a really great thing. And the fact that they're reducing that burst fire recovery means that you're going to be able to burst and then burst again, and it's going to allow you to burst more accurately as well. So all in all, I think these are really good changes to the Bulldog, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulldog sees a pretty nice spike in pick rate. And you should definitely think about it when you're thinking about buying maybe a Spectre or an Ares. You could have said buy a Bulldog and around it scales better. Now, of course, we do got to talk about the map updates. Specifically, let's look at the bind one. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but at first glance, this bind one is a pretty big deal. Not only can you just hop a sage wall, which is just freaking crazy, but the fact is you can't one-way smoke this corner anymore. And this is definitely a very inconspicuous looking change, but it actually has huge ramifications, and I'm definitely pretty excited to see exactly what characters are being used more or less in every given game. Next up, outside of A main, there's also this little bench now, as opposed to just this corner. I actually really like this as an alternate angle option when enemies are pushing through from CT. Instead of just holding a one-trick corner where they could easily check it with elevation, now you could hold an alternate angle in a lot of different spots, and it makes it a little bit more difficult for an enemy to full clear you. So when wrapping through CT and lurking up and things like that, it's definitely going to be something to keep in mind when you're trying to clear back here. Now, the breeze wall actually right here got extended, and that's very interesting because it's going to be a lot easier for an attacker to push out here and clear this left side without having to clear both angles. It's going to be a little bit deeper, but someone could tuck in there. It's definitely going to be pretty interesting here. I do like more obstruction on this map because specifically this is one of those maps that you absolutely need Viper because there's not enough obstruction between here and the site, but I'm definitely interested in seeing how this is fully going to play out. On top of that, attackers also get this pretty big crate right here, which is going to allow them to potentially peek another angle, peeking the pyramids. And I think this is also going to give attackers a lot more presence. But it's also interesting because a defender could push up here and hold this. So if you give up this right off the bat and you try to rotate back, a defender could be tucked in some of these cubbies, and there's just more things to hold and more things to clear. So it's definitely a really interesting dynamic here. Next up, on the back of the breeze point, now instead of just this tiny little box right here, these boxes stacked on top of each other in like an L shape, we have a full freaking box right here, a KNG box, and look at how much that covers. And Not only that, but people can hop on top of that. So I don't entirely know how this is going to play out. On one hand, enemies could be holding a lot more angles back of sight, which probably will make things a lot more difficult for attackers pushing through because of all this cover that a defender can have, still controlling sight and space on sight. It's going to be pretty hard for attackers to go and clear back of this box. But I am going to be interested in how this changes the meta as a whole, because this is a really big change, but it's definitely going to need a lot of repetitions and for us to play this map out to fully see how it's going to affect gameplay. Now, mid right here, they did a change that doesn't really matter that much, but it kind of looks more aesthetically pleasing because they took away that little, corner in the corner of the slanted wall. Definitely, they smoothed that out. That's kind of interesting. And then we move on over to B point, and they changed a whole bunch of stuff on B point. If we look at it, they took away the wall along the back of sight. They took away the little box in the center. They added a double cardboard box along the wall on the left. They really changed this point a lot, but I think it's going to be a lot easier for attackers to potentially clear this site because there's less angles for someone to just be crouched and hiding, whether it's behind the wall, whether it's, tucked in around the point. But that cardboard box definitely adds an extra layer of a person could hide on the back side of this and be clear from main, which is very frustrating. So it's interesting. I don't know exactly. It doesn't seem like this is meant to target one or the other. I think it gives defense a little bit more options, but also makes it easier to clear for attackers at the same time. So definitely interesting here. I kind of like the changes overall. Now, something that's also interesting about door A, it can no longer be reactivated until it's finished opening or closing. So that's something that you should definitely keep in mind. Now let's talk about some competitive changes. Quote, as the map and agent pool has increased, it's become increasingly difficult for new players to effectively learn and play Valorant. However, we have made any changes to when players are able to access our most competitive experience. We believe everyone should take time to learn the ins and outs of our core gameplay and have ample exposure to all the maps and agents Valorant will throw at you before competing in our ranked experience. To force this learning period, we decided to add an account level requirement to play competitive. Starting with patch 4.0, that have yet to play in ranked are required to reach account level 20 before they are able to enter the competitive queue. For those who have not yet reached account level 20, but have already played in competitive queue, you will start to be able to play in ranked. So this is actually a really great change. I know some of you might be frustrated if you like to grind an alt account with a new agent or whatever, but for the smurfing problem, this is a really, really big deal. Right now, they've already made it so if you smurf and you are obviously a smurf, the algorithm will pick you up and ramp you out of that rank incredibly quickly. But as is with this, it's going to be pretty hard to make a new account. I mean, getting to level 20 is no easy feat. You have to get all the way to level 20 before you can even play in competitive. That's going to be a really great thing. And I think the amount of smurfs in your games is going to be dramatically decreased. And some of you might be like, oh, I just want to freaking play the game. I'm a new player. I don't want to have to grind for 20 levels before I jump into comp. Everyone here will tell you you should not be jumping into comp if you haven't played until you're level 20, okay? So I think that's pretty fair. Now, next up, reduced 5-stack ranked rating penalty. After our initial data on 5 stacks and ranked, we realized we may have been too harsh on the penalty you receive for your RR gains and losses while in a 5-stack. Match fairness for 5 stacks is equal to non-5 stacks, meaning it's difficult for you to bring into a higher ranked player and potentially boost a low ranked player. Because of this data, we are reducing the penalties for lower ranks. Diamond 2 and below players will see their RR penalty reduced by 25 compared to the current balance. This means that the new minimum penalty is 25% reduced gains and losses compared to the previous 50. We only made this change for ranks not breaking into or on the leaderboards to help maintain leaderboard integrity. Next up is increased map randomization, increased our map weights, which should lead to an increase in map variety and reduction from map duplicates from map to match. And if this is true, that's freaking great because, if I get Breeze for the 4th time in a night, I might just off myself. That's a joke, by the way, but still, I'm freaking pissed when that happens. It's so goddamn sad. But all in all, I really like this patch. Now, we had another video earlier talking about some of the other changes you're looking forward to, but those are going to be coming in patch 4.02 and 4.03. They need to make sure that they stabilize this patch, this new act, And of course, make sure that Neon is balanced before they jump into all the crazy stuff that they have planned. But if you missed out on that, make sure you check out that video after here. But the GameLeap website is designated to help you if you want to dominate in patch 4.0. We have in-depth tips, tricks, map breakdowns, and everything that you need in order to succeed this competitive act. So do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below.